What's going on YouTube? So today we're going to be building a millionaire lineup for the main slate, 12 game, 12 p.m. Sunday start. So the purpose of my channel, I know there's a lot of lineup providers out there, lineup builders, tons of pros that say this and that about who you should start. My channel is basically designed for those beginners that are looking to jump into daily fantasy, primarily on Draftkings, since in Texas, unfortunately, FanDuel got shut down. So I'm going to talk about what my frame of mind is when it comes around building a GPP. Now, I primarily play tournament. I don't play cash game too often. I do want to say, though, if you're a beginner, always pad your GPP lines, your tournament lines with cash games. I can kind of break down the differences to help you understand what they are. But for this purpose of the video today, we're going to be talking about building a tournament lineup in one of these big millionaire matchups. So we're going to start off with where I think the most important money should be spent this week especially. If we go into the running back line here, you're going to see a ton of studs this week, or they call them chalk plays. These are positions that are going to get you the most points and have the most value per dollar. Now, generally speaking, you want about 2.5 to 3 times the value of what you put into the position. So if the player is $6,000, you want around 18 points from that particular player to reach value. Now in a millionaire lineup, the goal is to break 200 points. So on average, you want about 20 plus points a player and hopefully get 1 or 2 players to pop 30 points. So you actually can be in a good position to win some decent money. So this week, the chalkiest of chalk plays is obviously going to be Le'Veon Bell. If you look at Bell, the whole offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers is completely built around the run game. They're explosive. They have one of the best, if not the best, running back in the NFL right now. He's back from a suspension, healthy, looking great. If you look at his stats over 2 weeks, he's got over 50 points combined in those 2 weeks. Now keep in mind, he's only averaging 18 to 20 carries per game. But where he's so lethal is the receptions. He is one of the most passed on running backs in the league right now, okay? Now we're going to go to another player that has a lot of value as well that's significantly cheaper. But this week, the ultimate player to put in your lineup if you want to have a shot at making big money is Le'Veon Bell. So we're going to go ahead and stick him in. He's going to start everything off. Now with any tournament lineup, you have to have the lower owned guys. The goal is to get the guys around 1-2% ownership if you're lucky enough to snag a gem like that. But honestly, 10% or less is going to give you enough of leverage to get you up that ranking if they put up some good numbers. So just to keep everything balanced, we want to also look at wide receiver, right? So we want to have a stud wide receiver and a stud running back, someone who you think is going to get you the most output when it comes to points. So obviously, you got Antonio Brown. Now, any other day of the week, I would say 100% he's a must play, but he's $10,000. He basically needs to get you 30 plus points to reach even somewhat value. Now, if you look at his numbers, he's only top 30 points once this week against Washington, who has a crippled secondary right now. So really, they're not even relevant. He's averaging about 8 receptions, 8 receptions as an average right now. I mean, the guy stacks touchdowns. He's a touchdown magnet, but he also goes without them, and that's a risk you can't really afford when you're spending $10,000. If you're going to put that kind of money up for a position, you almost got to have a lock that he's going to get a touchdown. And the way Pittsburgh spreads the ball out to James and Coates and Eli and Brown and Bell, there's too many guys to eat on this team. So I'm going to fade him this week strictly on the price tag. Instead, I'm going to drop down now. Obviously, you got Julio and Odell Beckham, who's not even relevant this season, if you ask me. A.J. Green, obviously cleared. He's healthy. He's good to go. But against that New England secondary, he's just going to get stuffed. I don't see him putting up the 25, 30 points that he needs this week. But somebody who I'm really heavy on this week that I think is going to have a big game is going to be T.Y. Hilton. So T.Y., he's one of probably the most targeted wide receivers currently in the league consistently week to week. Primarily because Indy has nothing. They're garbage. But they do have T.Y., and the guy's a gem. If you look Over 5 weeks, he's got 3 touchdowns, which honestly, 60% of the games he plays, he scores a touchdown in for the most part. Look at those targets. 10, 11, or 11, 10, 11, 11, 12. That's insane usage. And he catches most of them as well. And he's averaging, what is it? 21 points per game at $7,700. I think you're going to get the same kind of value you would get out of Antonio Brown, but you're saving $2,300. So we're going to plug in T.Y. Hilton. Now, he's questionable, but I'm not worried about it. He was questionable last week, and he played, obviously, and put up some massive numbers. 36 points against Chicago, and that's just stupid points. So let's jump over to QB. Now, I'll tell you, from everything I'm reading, all the forums, all the podcasts, everybody is heavy on Drew Brees and Cam Newton this week. It's said to be the shootout of the week, probably the highest scoring, which is primarily why I'm fading that whole setup. I don't want to touch Brees. I don't want to touch Newton, and probably anyone from either of those teams, because I expect the usage to be really high. Brady's coming off a phenomenal week last week. How can you argue with 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions? He's a beast, but it was against Cleveland. Cincinnati obviously has a better defense. I don't think he's going to repeat that. So I'm going to say, if you're going to pay up at QB against a weak Miami defense, you can't go wrong with Ben Roethlisberger. He connects with Bell, so it's a great stack. We're not stacking Antonio Brown, so let's stack Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell. I think Bell is good for at least a passing touchdown this week against a weak Miami secondary. And I think he's good for at least 1 rushing touchdown this week. So I think that matchup is just juicy. I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to run that clock up, and then Bell's just going to go ahead and run it out, and they're going to destroy Miami. So we're averaging about 4,400. We need to find some value. So this week, if you're going to build enough studs in your lineup, you got to have the cheap guys. So the best way to do that, we're going to jump straight into tight end. Tight end is probably the best value spot. If you look, obviously you got your Olsens, you got your Gronks, which Gronk's still coming off injury, so he's not 100%. Everyone's going to be going straight for Jimmy Graham, straight for Martellus Bennett. Bennett, I don't think, is going to repeat the numbers that he did last week. I think he's going to have a little bit more challenge when it comes to scoring that many touchdowns and getting that much yardage. Gronk obviously ate a lot last week, and I think they're slowly starting to wean him back into a full workload. When that happens, Bennett's not going to be relevant unless you really want to take a shot in the dark. I think we're going to build on the Pittsburgh-Miami stack. We're going to throw in Jesse James at 3,000. The guy is so dirt cheap, but his usage is there. Pittsburgh, they like using tight ends. He's getting 18 receptions this season alone. His targets aren't what I would like to see for one of my players. But, look, 3 touchdowns over 5 games. He's obviously getting used in the red zone. He's getting used for those end zone shots. He's dirt cheap. He's only gone up $100 from last week, and he hit over 5x his value. Over 15 points, and he went up $100. So definitely a must-play for me this week. So we're going to continue that Pittsburgh stack. I think that's it for Pittsburgh. If you really want to get crazy, you can always run the Pittsburgh defense. But I think Miami's going to score a couple touchdowns. But other than that, they're not an insane choice for defense. And then we're going to also pick one value wide receiver as well. Now, this is going to look crazy, but I'm going to go deep for my value. So a couple guys that I have on my radar this week. So Kenny Britt for the Rams. Now, the Rams are garbage, I know, but they're going against Detroit, one of the worst defenses out there right now, honestly. If not the bottom 5, I think, for pass defense. Kenny Britt, he gets a lot of receptions. He gets targeted a decent amount. Rams don't have a lot of offensive weapons. They don't have a lot of deep threat guys except Tavon Austin and Kenny Britt, really. So now that kind of takes me, we're going to jump back a little bit. Brian Quick. Now, if you notice, where is he at? So Kenny Britt is 3,700. That is a value play, but I don't think it's quite low enough. We want to fit as much studs in our lineup as we can, and that's where I think Brian Quick is a sneaky play. He's 3,200, so we free up an extra $500. And look at him. He's getting 4, 6, 2, 1. Now, early in the season, he wasn't getting used as much, but I think he's stepping out this year. I think he's going to be a sneaky, low-owned guy, especially in big tournaments like the Millionaire Maker. $3,200. We may come back and revisit him if we need to either go down or up. in our spend to fit our guys in that we want. But I think that's a good play for right now. Now, I would say if you're going to go value, if you can do it, go as low as you possibly can where you think you can still get a minimum of 3x value on that particular player. Now, unless you're planning on trying to squeeze in a couple big studs, if you want to go a little bit more balanced, don't go as deep as 3,000. Maybe keep it in the 4,500 range. There's some good guys in that range as well. But we're going to take a big shot this week with Quick. Now, second wide receiver I like this week is Amari Cooper. This game is, I think, arguably going to be the biggest shootout. Kansas City, Oakland. Both defenses are garbage. Neither team can really stop the pass at all. Oakland a little bit better than Kansas City, to be honest with you. I think they're good for a couple more sacks than Kansas City is against Oakland. That O-line for Oakland is decent at keeping Carr protected. So I think he's just going to sling it downfield. Crabtree is a safe pick also if you want to go with him. But I think Cooper's going to eat a lot more this week. And I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 touchdown game on each side. I think it's going to be pretty ridiculously high scoring. So you can see they're finally starting to fit him back into the offense. Crabtree took off for a while and was shining. But they're still putting, Cooper in a great position. He gets a lot of red zone targets. He's only got 1 touchdown, but I think he's good for 1, if not 2, this week against Kansas City's weak secondary. So he's a must-play for me. So that gives us 2 mid to high range wide receivers that I think are good for a lot of points this week. Juicy matchups. Houston, they're saying on here they're 4th ranked defense against the wide receivers. They're not. They're garbage. I don't trust it. It's 5 weeks of data. It's not accurate. T.Y. Hilton is the guy that's going to eat on Indy, and Cooper's the guy that's going to eat on Oakland. So let's drop down to, or let's go ahead and knock out that next flex spot. So we have a running back, flex, and defense with $13K left. So we're going to go ahead. Actually, let's jump to defense. Let's see how much we truly are going to have. So obviously, everyone's going to target the Bills. I think Bills ownership is going to be somewhere in the 20, 25 plus range this week, percentage-wise. They're going against San Francisco. I'm a diehard Niner fan. But let's be honest, Kaepernick's coming back, hasn't played all season, hasn't played in the offseason, had 3 surgeries. I understand. They think Buffalo's going to be a lock for defense. But keep in mind, Kaepernick can run. He's got legs. He's lost some weight, yes. But no one knows what that's going to mean on the field yet. He may rush for 2 touchdowns, throw for 2 touchdowns. You never know. I'm going to fade the Bills. Plus, with Carlos Hyde, he's my boy. The guy can run. He can score touchdowns. And he's just unstoppable. He's matchup proof. I just think this can get messy, and I think Buffalo is not a lock. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop down a little bit, and I'm going to say we're going to go Tennessee Titans. Now, if you want to go deeper and you want to fade Titans, I know Tennessee had a great matchup last week. They shut them down pretty good last week, and let's look at their numbers. I mean, consistently, they're putting up 2x, 3x, or more over, 2 of the weeks against Detroit, which is pretty impressive considering they have some weapons. And against Miami, they absolutely just decimated Miami. So I know they're not a lock this week, but I think with Cleveland, there's rumors Terrell Pryor is going to be taking some snaps during practice. They may be integrating him, but I also read that Cody Kessler is going to be the starting QB for Cleveland. So either way, I think Tennessee is going to just destroy them. But you can also go and get a little crazy. Like I said, this is the Millionaire Maker. You need to differentiate yourself. I say the Bears against Jacksonville. Now, I think Bortles, Robinson is going to do well, that stack. But I don't think they're going to do enough to where Bears won't reach value. At 2,300, I think they're good for at least 6 points, which is great for a defense. I mean, we're not trying to blow it out. We're just trying to reach value, 2x, 3x if we're lucky, and walk away, unscathed. So I'm going to say let's go Bears because that'll free up some more money for us. The next running back I'm really big on as a Niner, but also just practicality. We're going to say Carlos Hyde. So Hyde's going against Buffalo. Buffalo has a garbage defensive line when it comes to stopping the run. Hyde is matchup proof. They're going to rely on the run game, establish it early, use it a lot, both with Kaepernick and Hyde. And also, Hyde's a multi-use back. He's going to get the catches. He's going to get the yardage for receiving. But also, he's going to pound him into the end zone. When he's in the red zone, he's extremely efficient. I mean, aside from Le'Veon Bell, DeMarco Murray, 6 touchdowns on the year already, 95 attempts. I mean, the guy gets work. look at the numbers. You cannot argue. At $5,100, he's giving you DeMarco Murray and Le'Veon Bell results, if not better, and he's $5,100. You're crazy if you don't play him. And I mean, at the end of the day, our offense for the Niners, we don't have a lot of weapons. Jeremy Curley's in the slot. Kaepernick doesn't generally throw to the slot. He's probably going to go downfield to Torrey Smith, try to get those rockets downfield, which he loves to throw. So I just think it's going to be the Hyde show. I think Hyde's going to have to carry the team, and if we're going to pull out the win, I think that's where we're going to be. So last but not least, we got $5,800. Let's drop down, see who we got here that we can fit in our flex position. Oh, we're so close to Fuller. Oh, well, that's all right. So a couple good plays you could throw in there that I think might go under-owned. Delaney Walker against Cleveland. I mean, he's not super impressive this season. He has 2 touchdowns, 16 receptions, not putting up phenomenal numbers. I don't know why he jumped up, $800 after getting a 17-point outing last week. Makes no sense to me, but that's fine. But honestly, I think we should go see where we can go a little bit lower and maybe bump up in our defensive position. So a big guy this week that I think is going to be used a lot. Now, I think his ownership will be higher than I would like, but I think he's a must-play against a weak Atlanta defense is Jimmy Graham. So Jimmy Graham, early in the season, didn't do much. They slowly started working him into the offense. But over the last 2 weeks, over 100 yards receiving and 6 receptions and a touchdown. He's getting targeted. They're trying to free up those receivers, so they're using the tight ends more. I think Jimmy Graham is good for a touchdown, if not 2 touchdowns this week against Atlanta, who cannot shut down tight ends. And really, Jimmy Graham is an elite tight end. If you remember back in New Orleans, he was unstoppable. He wasn't worked into the Seattle offense very much when he initially came over from New Orleans, but they're finding ways to integrate him into that offense. He's healthy now. He's looking good. He's unstoppable. He is Seattle's version of Gronkowski, if you ask me, but he's much faster. So I think this week we should definitely go dual tight end set. We got a value and in my opinion, a stud tight end, and that frees up $900. And this is where you go back to your defense and you see what you can bump up to. New England against Cincinnati. Okay, other than A.J. Green and Brandon LaFell, Cincinnati's not doing much. I mean, their running back game is in shambles. I think they're going to run with Bernard because Hill is technically healthy. But this game with New England, I think it's going to be a shutout. I don't think they're going to do much. I think New England's going to absolutely beat up on them. But I'm going to talk myself out of New England, and I'm going with the Eagles. And the reason I'm doing that is Eagles are low-owned on a defensive front. If you look at their numbers, and then we'll talk about the matchup. Phenomenal numbers. They're keeping teams, for the most part, low point totals. They're getting interceptions. They're getting fumble recoveries. They're sacking the crap out of people. And really, I mean, how can you argue at $3,100 with those kind of numbers? They're a must-play. So we're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles against Washington, who absolutely looks like garbage right now. They can't complete touchdowns to save their life, and overall, they're just playing like shit. I mean, let's be honest. So I think this is the matchup I'm going to run this week. I've got some variations. Obviously, I'm doing some different stacks. But if you're a beginner and you're looking for a lineup that should do really well, this stack, this is a Pittsburgh stack for the most part, is going to give you a lot of value. Brian Quick, James, Eagles, those are going to be our value plays of the week. And the rest of it just looks juicy. So leave a comment in the comment section if you have any questions. I'll be posting an update to see how this lineup does at the end of the week. Like I said, good luck. If you got any questions, hit me up. And if you like this video, smash the like button, subscribe. I'll be posting videos every main slate every week, Draftkings GPP. I'll also throw in a cash game video as well here and there. If you'd like to see what I'm playing in cash games, let me know. I'm happy to share. And yeah, good luck this week.